Thunder pressed against the city, a deep and distant rumble rolling over the wet roofs. I stood under the gutter's small overhang, picking at flaking blue paint while I waited for the doors to open. Water was pooling at my toes and the edges of the little brown envelope in my hand had gone soft. Inside were my demo recordings, 24 minutes of soundscapes, originals stitched together in endless careful nights, layers built from foot-dragged gravel foaming ferry horns, a train's ambient hum, the old Redfern bell. Mum had called as I left the flat. "Are you sure it's worth it? People want music tests, not noise." Her voice always loaded with concern and judgment like a woolen blanket tight across my ribs. Even with my headphones on, the night's wet hush felt louder than usual. I'd spent months on these tracks, but the gallery had barely added my show to the flyers. New sound experiences, open submission night. Wet weather entry, the irony strung. I watched as others hurried in, photographers clutching crisp portfolios, video artists, poets with stapled sheaves. My head throbbed from holding it high too long. The doors squeaked open. I took a breath, squared my shoulders, and filtered inside. The foyer smelled of acrylic paint and spilled cheap wine. Everyone glistened, either from rain or anticipation. Their eyes moved like marbles behind thick lenses, scanning for someone of value. I tried to press the envelope flat against my chest, willing the crumpled edges to disappear. "Sound designer," the volunteer at the desk studied the sign-in sheet. I nodded. She gave me a small smile that stalled too quickly. "There's not much demand for that tonight, but sure, you can leave your demo with the curators," she pointed. "Through there." The next room was all oil paintings and screens. A low table in the corner bore the label Other Media. I left my envelope with a cluster of zines and a lumpy ceramic bowl, then hovered at the back wall, watching as curators in mismatched scarves made slow, cautious loops. When I caught my reflection in the rain-streaked window, wet hair clinging to my cheek, shoulders drawn up, I almost laughed. I looked exactly how I felt, out of place, out of bounds. I tried to strike up conversation. A man in tortoiseshell glasses appraised my name tag. "A sound designer," he said as if tasting something odd. "Do you mean like a DJ or just noises?" He smiled, too big, then drifted away. A woman with a neat grey crop leaned in. "So what does your work sound like?" "It's about the city," I said. "I take what's around us, streetscapes, harbour calls, overheard." She interrupted. "So field recordings." "That's interesting." There was kindness in her voice, but I knew that interesting. Pity thin as smoke. An hour passed. I watched fingerprints smudge my demo envelope. Nobody picked it up. I waited until the room had thinned, and the gallery owner, a slim man with artfully tousled hair, began hinting that things were winding down. "We'll let you know," he told me, not quite meeting my eye. "But we're really looking for visual innovation." I stepped into the rain. It hit my face like spit. My feet were freezing and my jaw ached from clenching. The city, indifferent and shining, hissed as cars passed. I paused under a flickering streetlight, throat tight with a rage I couldn't show. "You don't belong here." That refrain would follow me. I heard it again at home, as Mum poured tea and shook her head when I told her about the night. "Maybe you're just trying too hard," she said. Jamie, my brother, piped in with his usual sarcasm. "Why not just get a proper job? There's plenty of call centers hiring." He smirked and Mum didn't scold him. Even Dad, who almost never said a word, just stared silently at the TV, the corner of his mouth folding down. At dinner every night the same undertone. Why did I keep doing this? Why bother? I moved out eventually to a chilly share flat near Stanmore, splitting time between piecemeal sound design gigs and working the register at Uncle Ricky's electronics shop. My flatmates were nice enough but didn't really understand. They had desk jobs, relationships, routines. I spent hours alone, headphones tight, plugging my mic into the city itself, trailing after the last night buses, pressing record at dawn as kookaburras broke open the sky. Sometimes I wondered if maybe they were right. There were rejections, jobs that claimed to want fresh ears, but always picked the safe candidate. Internet posts about the most amazing music producers alive had hundreds of comments. My posts had none, but I kept recording, I kept mixing, kept building. I even convinced myself the solitude was good for me, pure shivering focus, no one to dilute or distract. What else could I do, really? The rage from that gallery night became a battery inside me. I couldn't let it go. One Tuesday, a client wanted a custom cityscape for an upcoming game, something real, something alive. I sent a 10-minute track, thick with rain on train windows and children shrieking at Bondi. They played it in a conference call. On the other end, silence, until the director cleared his throat. I actually felt the city breathing. It was the smallest, softest encouragement, but it cracked the ice. I built a website, cold emailed people, spent money I didn't have on better equipment. There were gigs, small at first, museum installations, sleep stories, a short film that premiered in someone's backyard. More people began to reach out, producers, indie directors, teachers looking for sensory soundwalks for their classrooms. Even council projects sometimes sought me out, a real Sydney sound. But at home, nothing changed. Mum still wrung her hands. Don't count on this, love. It's not real work until you have a steady contract. Jamie snickered at family barbecues. Hey, heard any good garbage trucks lately? Dad asked why I didn't use my science degree, why I wasted time cutting up nonsense. Rage and restraint always. I'd nod, smile, excuse myself, play with my nieces while the adults rolled their eyes. On nights after these gatherings, my anger turned sticky in my chest. I slammed out new tracks, added bite to the sirens, grit to the underfoot rumble. I let the city's chaos say what I couldn't. Almost without noticing, the gigs grew bigger. A friend, Astrid, connected me with a VR company working with the Maritime Museum. They needed immersive port environments. My mix of whale song, anchor chains, storm and seagull premiered as part of the exhibit, a small credit, but people listened. The project got awards not for me but for the company. Still my name was there, printed small beneath the headline. 3 years slipped by, then 5. Mum's hair streaked silver. Jamie married, bought a house and stopped even pretending to care about my career, but I kept going. When international inquiries finally came, invitations to work on films, documentaries, big installations, it felt almost distant, numbers on a screen. I buried myself deeper, hungry for proof too great for them to ignore. Then one afternoon I got an email from the Sheds, one of Sydney's old wharf buildings refitted as an event space. They invited me, a local sound designer whose innovative sonic cityscapes had finally crossed into critical radar, to headline a collaborative show with respected audio artists. They listed the names of journalists, of curators, of Sydney's most prominent families who'd be present. They wanted to showcase me, not as filler, not as novelty, centerpiece. Would I bring my best works and perhaps a live demonstration? I read the email twice, then a third time, hands shaking. Then I closed my eyes and sat on the edge of my bed until the sun changed direction. The night of the show, a storm pressed its palm across the city, as if replaying the rain from years before. My chest trembled, not with nerves but with the old coiled anger, the need to prove. The Sheds were dazzling, enormous. Their ceilings soared, all steel and glass. Cattleyard lights spilled over hundreds of visitors. Waitstaff in black milled beside wall-length projections of the harbour, the bridge in twilight blue. At the entrance I saw familiar faces, relatives bundled in good jackets. Mum, her lips pursed, Dad, hands jammed in pockets, Jamie scrolling his phone, muttering to whoever would listen. They'd come not because they believed but to be polite, or maybe to collect details for another round of family gossip. The thought should have bothered me, it barely touched me. A volunteer handed me a badge, artist curator. Their voice was steady and respectful, a tone I'd never received before. Inside, the main room throbbed with energy. My installation took up the entire east wall and floor, a nighttime Sydney built from sound and light, illuminated by slow looping visuals. Headlights coasting wet tar, ferries chugging beneath bridges, the shimmer of neon on puddles. Through hidden speakers, layers cascaded, wind twisting through high windows, footsteps echoing in the old alleys, market birds, overlapping trains and far-off thunder. People stood transfixed. Some closed their eyes, padding along the stone floor, letting the vibrations climb up through their bones. I watched, not from the wings, but close up, walking the room as the feature. Near the front I saw my old gallery nemesis, the man with the tousled hair frowning in concentration. Then came the announcement for the live mix. I took the table, cables looped at my feet, mic cupped in my hands. I built a city in front of them, cracked open a shopping bag, twisted foil, flicked keys. The speakers filled up with the dull rush of a tunnel, the call of a distant magpie, the sharp break of rain on steel. I wove in laughter from circular quay, the cough of a bus's brakes, the grumble of a fisherman cursing at the rocks. Beneath, a heartbeat thumped the city's and my own. I glanced at my family. Mum was blinking, lips parted. Jamie's arms were uncrossed, phone away. Dad's brow furrowed, but his gaze was steady, not on the floor but at me. The last sounds faded and there was a hush. My hands trembled as I set the mic down. Thunder, real and recorded, rolled through the sheds. Then someone clapped, the noise sharp and raw. Soon the whole room was on its feet. Later, I moved through the crowd, strangers coming up, friends, journalists, students. Even that old gallery director approached. "I had no idea," he said. "You've created something impossible to ignore. Congratulations, Tess." Backstage, I found my family waiting. Jamie was the first to speak. "Bloody hell, Tess. That was you." I shrugged, mouth dry. He shook his head, almost sheepish. "I mean, I thought it'd just be noise, but it felt like home, didn't it, Mum, Dad?" Mum, pink-eyed, pressed my hand with shaking fingers. "I had no idea, love. I'm so proud." Dad just nodded, jaw clenched as if holding something back, but he squeezed my shoulder, a rare softness. "That was real work," he said. "Real art." All those years clawing for recognition, for simple acknowledgement, they cascaded through me at once. Pride, relief, the old anger washed thin. We walked home together that night, the rain quiet for once, the city humming around us. My family fell in behind me, no longer leading, no longer dragging their feet. Their words stayed with me, as did the memory of that room, skeptics seeing, hearing, unable to deny what I'd built. It was enough. But more than that, it freed me. I had proved it not for them anymore, but for me. And the city, in all its wild electric noise, finally sounded like home.